Hello, everyone, and welcome to the West Hollywood COVID-19 webinar series. We will start our webinar shortly. Okay, great. I think we're ready to begin. So, hello everyone. My name is Paulo Casperdet with the City of West Hollywood, and welcome to the West Hollywood COVID-19 webinar series. Today's topic is temporary outdoor expansion permit for social distancing. The City of West Hollywood has issued an emergency executive order aimed at assisting businesses and workers and has produced a toolkit for businesses affected by the coronavirus crisis. Information is available by going to the city's website at www.weho.org/coronavirus, where there are links to small business resources. For today's agenda, we'll have Tara, the city's business development analyst, go over the temporary outdoor expansion for social distancing. And then we'll have some questions by some of our staff, Jennifer, who is the current and historic preservation planning manager, Ben, who's the building and safety manager, and Robert, the senior plan check engineer here with the City of West Hollywood. But before we begin today's presentation, I have a few housekeeping items that I'd like to go over with everyone. This webinar is being recorded and will be emailed to everyone that registered here today. These webinars are also being archived on the city's coronavirus information page at www.weho.org/coronavirus for future viewing and are available on the city's WehoTV YouTube channel at www.youtube.com/WehoTV. On the right-hand side of your screen there, you should see the questions tab. Please use that tab to ask any of our questions today to any of our panelists. Also, the polls tab is located on the right-hand side of your screen, where you can answer our questions and see results in real time. With all that said, I'd like to turn it over to Tara to start the presentation.
Hi, everyone. Welcome again to this COVID-19 webinar series, as Paulo has already mentioned. Today we are discussing our recently adopted temporary outdoor expansion for social distancing permit and program. This program was adopted just recently on June 1st by our City Council. It was an urgency ordinance, as we had learned just that previous week that our restaurants were eligible to open. So staff quickly pulled together an application and an urgency ordinance and design and operational standards for our businesses to quickly take advantage of this program to increase their revenues based on the stipulations provided by the health order. So the temporary outdoor expansion permit allows the city to offer streamlined approval for eligible business to use additional areas, including but not limited to our sidewalks, on-street parking spaces or curbside parking spaces, private parking lots, or additional private property as areas to expand outdoor dining operations. And this is done so without requiring amendments to any existing minor conditional use permits or administrative permits. All fees related to an encroachment permit and this permit will be temporarily waived. However, liability insurance will still be required for the encroachment permit side of things. All parking requirements are also waived while the permit is active. Okay. Next slide, please. The revised LA County Public Health Order that was issued on May 29th allows for in-person dining for restaurants, but it limits the capacity to 60% of the business occupancy threshold. And to help our businesses maintain compliance with the county's guidelines, we developed this program so businesses could conduct their operations in outdoor areas. As we know, the outdoor areas are the safest places for the public to be. And we want to make sure we are maintaining our public safety guidelines during this time. So this program is an effective way to meet social distancing requirements and safety standards, including accessibility and liability requirements. The program establishes standards that ensure public safety and accessibility and temporarily suspends some requirements of our municipal code. In addition, the California Department of Alcohol Beverage Control, or ABC, as it's regularly known, it has released a series of regulatory relief measures, and the fourth notice of regulatory relief allows restaurants to expand their footprints to outdoor dining through a temporary permit. Now, this permit does require approval from the local jurisdiction, i.e. the city, prior to the ABC application, and the ABC application does require a $100 fee. You can find links to this permit on our city's website, and we'll be sure to send those links out in the chat at the end of the presentation. So in order for West Hollywood businesses to take advantage of both the ABC permit and stay within the guidelines of the county, we developed this program. And I'd like to move to the next slide. So these are just, I'm going to go through some examples, and looks like this is an example of the use of a private property. So this looks like, I pulled this picture from the internet, but please excuse, I did not reference the source. I believe this is a restaurant in Atlanta, and this is a typical valet area. And you can see very clearly that the dining tables are spaced adequately apart. The shade structures are freestanding umbrellas, and the pathways of travel are clear and at least 4 feet in width. We'll get into a bit more of those details in the coming slides, but I just want to pull your attention to those few things as we go through some of these images. But you can see you can do this in a very beautiful way, temporarily set it up, and the goal is to really make this an easy lift for our businesses to be able to allow them to increase their revenues during this period of limited interior occupancy. Next slide, please. Here again is the use of private property. So this looks like it could be a parking space to the side of the restaurant building. And again, these are temporary tables, nothing fancy. It is just, obviously a temporary scenario. And here we have it set up in the side parking lot. So again, this ordinance, the steps that our city council has taken has temporarily waived the requirements made for parking for businesses if you are using this application. Next slide, please. So this is an example of a restaurant using a curbside parking space to expand their outdoor. They obviously already have outdoor dining area, but they wanted to increase that, so they expanded it just a smidge into the street there. It actually looks like from this picture, you can't really clearly tell, but it looks like they actually are occupying the sidewalk space, and they provided an ADA path of travel through the curbside parking space. And we will get to a more specific example of that later in the presentation. Next slide. And this is an example of the use of solely the sidewalk. So the sidewalk and the previous slide that we just looked at, the use of the curbside parking space, that does require an extra step to receive that encroachment permit from our engineering division. But the staff is really ready and willing to work with all businesses, whether it be that they would use their private property or the public right-of-way. Next slide. Okay, so now we're just going to walk through the approval process. And oh, see there's a question. Define public property. Tara, hi Joanne, thank you for your question. Can you use someone else's private property if you are not the tenant? That's two very good questions. So in the application, actually, Paulo, can you send out we have it queued up. Yep, you can see there's an application link that should have arrived on your screen. If you open that link, you'll see the first page, and I'm opening it at the same time as everyone, so give me a moment. Actually, I think I have it pulled up somewhere. Okay, so those, the outdoor areas that are eligible for expansion are, we've kind of clustered it into sidewalk space as public right of way, whether it be curbside space as public right of way or other private property. And in this is actually language that was pulled directly from the ABC permit. So we try to really stay consistent with what the ABC license is eligible for. So there's no confusion between restaurants that want to serve alcohol in their expanded footprint. So there's just no confusion between the ABC and the local jurisdiction. So I'll just walk through briefly to clarify the question from Joanne. The areas that are available are any outdoor areas that are accessible from the subject property currently, but not currently permitted as service area. 2 would be outdoor areas under the control of the subject property owner or leasee and or one or more other business. 3, parking lots. 4, sidewalks, as we talked about. And then really that 5th category is going to be where the question is there a vacant property that is adjacent to my current operation that I could lease from the property owner? And the answer to that is yes. If it is available or accessible from the subject property, your applicant property where you're currently operating, then you are eligible to expand your outdoor dining in that space, given that you have the permission of the property owner. Okay, I hope I answered that question. I'm gonna get back to, we will try to answer the questions as they go, as they come up, but we might get to the questions, all the questions further down in the conversation. Okay, back to approval process. So there's 2 steps. If you're using just your private property, you only have to go through this 1 step, this temporary outdoor expansion permit. The second step is specific to applicants that are using the public right-of-way. Businesses will be required to acquire an encroachment permit if they're using the public right-of-way, and that is really to do with the insurance and liability of the space that your operations are occupying in the public space. So we as a city need to basically make sure that everybody's staying safe and inside the legal requirements of what we deem appropriate. Okay. With the temporary outdoor expansion, we are really hoping, and we are rushing as staff to pull this together as quickly as possible, but we are aiming for that 3-day turnaround. And we do ask you for some additional time if there is an encroachment permit required, but we really should be able to get things pushed out quite quickly, given you have a complete application and that everything that we are asking for is included in that application. Okay, I'm going to answer a question real quick. I see there's some questions about extended to bars or restaurants, or so right now, bars with no food are not able to currently open under the county's health orders. So you would be eligible to apply for this once your business is allowed to open. And under the ABC's permit, the fifth notice of regulatory relief, it does allow bars to partner with food establishments. So there's some multiple ways. We kind of have to wait. I know there's some murmurings that bars might be opening relatively soon. So we just are kind of trying to keep up with the Joneses in terms of what the county's guidelines are. So more information to come on that. Bars are not currently eligible for this program at this point. Next slide, please. Okay, we're going to walk through what's required in the permit, and then hopefully we'll try to get to all of the questions. I'm just seeing, they're getting distracting me. I'm hiding the questions now. Okay. So for the permit, really, first page, we ask for your general information, property address, business name, applicant information, really just the general information. The second page is really related to your business information, your business type, your hours of operation, whether or not you serve alcohol, if you have queuing areas, do you take reservations, are you operating in any delivery or takeout manner? And this allows our planners and our approval processes to understand how the space outside of your restaurant is being utilized. And they need all of that information to make sure that you are safe and sound and not open for lawsuits from anybody, but specifically we really want to pay attention to our accessibility and our ADA compliance terms. So with that, we'll go to the next slide. Proposal information. So are you encroaching onto the sidewalk? Are you going to use a curbside parking space? Have you talked to your neighbors? Can you use some private property that might be available to you? Or are you willing to give up some parking spaces and replace that with outdoor dining area? We need to know the approximate size. This just needs to be a general calculation. You're not being charged for any square footage that you encroach upon. So we do just need to know this approximate size of the space. And then you'll see in the application, we ask for the type of temporary structures. This includes any safety barriers that are required depending on the scenario that you're choosing to go with, whether it's temporary shade structures. We are limiting to freestanding umbrellas. So we do not want to see any sails that are attached to buildings. That requires another level of review. And if we want to get this streamlined, we need to basically avoid tents and sails. Stick with freestanding umbrellas, you'll be good to go. And then we also want to know any parking impacts, whether there's going to be a loss of parking on site. And this is just really for us to keep track of that. There's no negative side of sharing that information, I'm trying to say. Next question, next slide. Okay, so there are in total 9 site plan requirements. That is not 9, that is 9. We will go through them and we will answer questions, and I hope that we will have plenty of time to answer all of the chat questions. First requirement is when you have a site plan, and I know obviously business owners are not necessarily planners, so I'm trying to speak the language in a way that is amenable and understandable for our friends in the business community. So when you show a site plan is the overhead looking down. You want to show all of basically give as much information as you possibly can, including but not limited to the adjacent buildings, streets, sidewalks, whether there's tree wells or any permanent structures. So start there, lay that out, get the dimensions of the space. And this does need to be drawn to scale. There are some free resources that I'm happy to connect anybody that's interested in to doing this themselves. It might be easier to hire somebody to do this as a contract, just quick and get that done. But we as a city are here for resources, and I'm happy to connect those things to the businesses that do need them. If you already have a existing site plan of your outdoor space, use that as a template, and then use that as your base map, basically. Let's move to the next slide, please. Okay. We're asking you to include any existing and or approved outdoor dining area that you've already had in operation. And so this will allow us to make sure that your expanded area is just that, it's that temporary space, and that when this permit expires, that you still are eligible to hold on to your existing outdoor dining space that you've already been permitted through for the city. So if you have existing outdoor dining space, please indicate that in the site plan, and then show your expanded outdoor temporary space as well. And designate any pickup or takeout queuing areas, as well as if there's pickup zones, please designate that on the site plan as well. Okay, site plan number 3, requirement number 3. Next slide. Again, this is showing all temporary structures. This is mainly related to things that you could likely roll in, put in place just for the operations of your business during the day or during hours of operation, including your staff station, utensils, hand washing stations, temporary barriers, shade structures, trash cans, recycling bins, valet stands, etc. That seems all very clear. Let's go to the 4th slide. 4th requirement. Okay. We cannot stress this enough that we have to maintain the minimum of an unobstructed 4 feet of travel to accommodate ADA accessibility. This is so the city is protecting our business community from any lawsuits that might come up. And this, I know it is a bit of an extra step, but it's not an extra step because these are people in our community that deserve access to these outdoor expanded spaces. So you have to show the dimensions and type of barrier used to delineate the outdoor dining service area, and also show that path of travel. Next slide. Again, this is related to the ADA compliance. We have to show the location of any accessible parking spaces and the accessible path of travel to the business entrance, if applicable. And it has come up in some scenarios where parking spaces are not striped or they're used as a valet lot. And in that case, we will work with our businesses on a case-by-case basis to understand the site limitations and work through the approvals together. So if that is the case for your business, just indicate that in your project description or somewhere on your site plan, so it is clear to the planners and the building official. Okay, site plan requirement number 6, moving along. Okay, so we do need to identify the existing exits from the existing building or the business, and clarify how these exits will be maintained and kept clear for all occupants. So again, this means you need to be clear about where your temporary structures are going to be placed, as well as any existing permanent structures in the site plan. Site plan number 7. Okay, this is a bit of a nuance. So you need to provide a seating layout that shows the location and number of seats, and show a path of travel identifying exiting and an accessible route into the seating area, which is that 4-foot minimum clearance, or 48 inches. And within this, I think it's on another slide, but 5% of the seats on the site plan do need to be maintained as accessible for ADA compliance. Okay, site plan requirement number 8. Moving on. Okay, this is what I was just speaking about. 5% of each seating area type shall be accessible to persons with disabilities. In the seating plan, clearly identify tables and seating that are accessible with a 30 inches wide minimum of 48 inches long minimum. And we can sort of tease that apart with our ADA specialists, the building official, Ben, and our senior plan check engineer, Robert, once we get to the questions. Site plan requirement number 9. Okay, and again, Identify an accessible route of travel to the new dining area, to and from the business entrance, and the public right-of-way. And this is the accessible route, again, needs to be 4-foot minimum, and it should be clearly indicated in the site plan. I know I'm going to say that is it for the site plan requirements. And no, it might sound like a lot, but it is all about maintaining that ADA compliance and the safety of your employees, your customers, and the city. So we really, to be able to submit a complete application, we need to make sure that all of those site plan requirements are met. Next slide. So now we're going to walk through, there's in the permit application, if you scroll all the way down, you see some examples, which is, we're going to just walk through those real quick. Some of these you saw images of, so this is the site plan version of that. You can see, so this is the use of the sidewalk only. You can see the business here at the entrance location. Oh, I'm highlighting as if you guys can see my cursor. That is not the case. But you can see the business entrance location. There are, this is drawn to scale. It's quickly done by one of our wonderful planners, Garen Yallis. He spaced these tables 6 feet apart and maintained that 4 feet of unobstructed pedestrian clearance in the public right-of-way. So for this one, this application, an application that looks like this, if you do not have any outdoor encroached area, you would still need that encroachment permit and the temporary outdoor expansion permit. Next slide. We know that there's, most of our sidewalks in West Hollywood cannot accommodate for that type of use. There are a few areas where restaurants may have the opportunity to only expand into the sidewalk, but the most likely scenario is that if you do expand onto the sidewalk, we will likely need to expand either a path of travel or the actual operations of dining into the this curbside parking space. So in this scenario, this illustrates a sort of more traditional but temporary parklet. This occupies 2 parking spaces in the roadway, and it shifts the operations to the exterior, the curbside space of the sidewalk. So therefore, there is that 4 feet maintained of unobstructed walkway. So you are able to clearly see that ADA compliance is maintained in this site plan. You can see the barricades. We likely would need a little bit more information about what type of barricade material that is and the dimensions of that. There are traffic control companies that West Hollywood works with regularly to shut down the streets, for whether it be for Pride or for the marathon. We're happy to connect you to our resources that we know of. There's plenty of these sort of temporary barricade rental companies that do provide resources and are helping cities across California to pursue this type of permit. Okay, next slide. This scenario illustrates the pedestrian ramp scenario, which we see that, like I was saying, the pink circles obviously indicate our outdoor dining tables, and these interrupt the flow of pedestrian travel on the sidewalk. So with that, this application needed to expand the path of travel into the curbside parking space with an ADA ramp. And again, that ramp could be obtained from one of those traffic control companies, or any event rental. They would be able to provide you like a monthly lease on some of this infrastructure that would be needed to provide the safety and the ADA requirements. And with the turning radius, there is a 5-foot minimum with the turning of the ADA ramp. We'll go to the next slide. So with this is a pedestrian deck scenario where rather than the ramp was used to go down the curb onto the street. So in this scenario, a deck is constructed at grade with the sidewalk to provide pedestrians the extra space to sort of scoot around the clients that are eating, or customers that are eating at these outdoor dining tables. Again, with that 5-foot minimum width of the turning radius. Okay, next slide, please. With this scenario is a site plan where an off-street private parking space, private parking lot was utilized to expand the outdoor dining footprint with a partial closure. So some parking spaces have been maintained here, those few in the front, and they've closed off the back half of the parking lot to accommodate expanded outdoor dining. And with that, you would need to also indicate, again, the ADA path of travel and the any other additional temporary structures that would be in place during the operation. Next slide, please. And this illustrates an off-street parking lot with a full closure. And my apologies, this should, in a best case scenario, this would indicate that there has been an accessibility parking space maintained. So that's an oversight on our illustrative behalf, but please excuse that. It should indicate that there is one parking, or would have at least one parking space secured for ADA compliance. Next slide. And here we have a partial sidewalk closure and a parking lot combination. So we encourage you to get creative with the space. We know all the businesses have very unique circumstances that surround either their front storefront or side lots, or even potentially to the rear of their business. So these are all just illustrative examples that could provide a jumping off place for our businesses to really explore how to expand their outdoor dining operations through this permit. And next slide. I think that might be, oh, okay, yes, one more. The side and rear lot combo scenario. So with this, we see that potentially there is space to the rear of your business that you would like to occupy. Maybe you're limited to the front of your business. And this scenario combines that side lot and the rear lot, while maintaining that 4-foot path of travel and indicating the temporary structures that are in place. And with that, next slide, we can, okay, I'm opening up the sidebar. I know I heard a lot of beeps.
I think we got a lot of questions that came in here through both the chat and the questions tab. So maybe why don't we start over in the questions tab. So a question from Graham here is, can metered parking spaces be used to allow for public right-of-way?
I can answer that one. Short answer, yes. We just need to know the number of spaces that you'll be occupying and the location. So please indicate that in your permit application.
Great. And then something I'm seeing on both the chat and the questions tab here is this temporary outdoor expansion for social distancing permit. Can it be used for retail at this time?
We are piloting this for restaurants currently. We did shape the permit to be flexible to accommodate our retail community, but we do want to try it out at first with our restaurants. So it's not necessarily a no, but it is a pause on the retail component at this point.
Great.
Okay. Paulo, do you want to keep reading questions?
Yeah, I think I think here, but I mean, I just saw something new that came in. There was talk about closing Robertson on the weekends. Is that still in the works? We're actively exploring all avenues to assist our businesses during this time. We're working with all of the businesses to see how new programs like closing off some of our side streets might work out. So we're continuing to explore everything. We don't necessarily have a answer on that question, but we are looking into that right now. Okay, so just to reiterate, bars without food, do they qualify or do they not qualify?
At this point in time, the county has directed us to the bars are currently not eligible to be open, so therefore they would not be eligible to expand their temporary outdoor space right now. And that was, I was confused on that. Ben and I had to get on a call with a health inspector to really clarify that. I think at this point that is not in the works, but when bars are eligible to reopen, they would be eligible to expand their outdoor footprint, because the likelihood is that their indoor capacity would also be limited. And so the goal of this is that once businesses are eligible to be reopened, that that limited capacity would be able to expand upon that with this outdoor expansion.
Great. And our friend Mark Lehman has a question on, do we know yet how long the temporary expansion will last? When will it end?
It's currently structured to last in perpetuity until the council repeals the ordinance, which, as I'm sure Mark Lehman knows, that we've passed a number of urgency ordinances that will at some point need to be repealed. This one does not have an expiration date built into it. That's largely because we just don't really know what the future holds to some degree. Whether if the ABC pulls their temporary permits, then it doesn't make sense for our permit to continue for restaurants that are serving alcohol. But if there's restaurants that are not serving alcohol, then we would like to encourage them to use this. So really, we're trying to be as flexible as possible in the expiration of this.
Great. Joanne has a question. Tara, does this apply to only restaurants? How about yogurt shops?
Yogurt shops. I mean, I think it would. Well, Jen, I'm going to defer to Jen.
My understanding is that it would apply to anyone who could have outdoor dining. So any restaurant, and we consider in the city, we consider yogurt shops to be restaurants. Obviously, this doesn't allow anyone to have alcohol that doesn't already have alcohol, and it doesn't allow anyone to operate a restaurant who doesn't already have a restaurant. But if you have a food service outlet or restaurant, I think it should apply to you, yes.
Great. Thanks, Jen.
Mm-hmm.
Jared Meisler has a question. Is there a time limit for service in public areas? I think that means in how long can you stay out in the outdoor dining space?
We've set it to sync with our noise ordinance, which I should know this. Wait.
I was actually looking because I was second guessing myself, but I think it's 8 a.m. to 10 p.m.
That was what my first thought was as well.
Yes, 8 a.m. it ends at 10 p.m.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think that information might be available also in the permit that we sent out earlier as well. Another question here is, are city-owned parking lots available for use?
That's a great question. It's not incredibly clear, I guess, with the use of the public right of way, but we were not necessarily thinking about using the city-owned parking lots, because there is the requirement that the subject property needs to be adjacent to the area of operation. So I think in maybe some scenarios, there might be some city parking lots that would be eligible, and we can certainly look at that as being an opportunity for businesses. But I think the requirement for the area to be adjacent to and accessible to the subject property would be maybe a little bit more limiting.
Right.
Say if someone has that specific question in a very specific case, just go ahead and email planning@weho.org and we can try to work that through with you. Just keep in mind that city-owned property isn't the same thing as the public right-of-way, so it's not quite the same process. But if you have a specific question about a specific property, let us know and we'll look into it for you.
Great. Thanks, Jen. Philip has a question. Where can we get plans that show the sidewalk site plans? And I think that might have been maybe an earlier question for the last set of slides there. But it's also available within the application of itself. You just scroll all the way down. There's a few examples on there. And then as like we said in the beginning, this webinar is recorded. And it will be available to all of you that registered via the email addresses you provided, and also available on the city's coronavirus website, as well as our WehoTV YouTube channel, if you'd like to look at it again. Let's see, what else do we have on here? Joanne has a question. Tara, given the moratorium, if a business is already accessing another business sidewalk area, what can you do?
Can you repeat the question?
Sure. And I'm just going to probably guess on what Joanne probably said. So the question is, given the moratorium, if a business is already accessing another business's sidewalk area, what can you do? And I'm going to assume that they probably have an agreement with that other business to use their outdoor area.
Right. Right. We do need to understand the use of the public right-of-way as it stands currently. So if there's already an area that is encroached upon, then the city will not issue a second encroachment permit for that space. That's my best answer. I'm not sure if Jen or Ben have anything to add with that. Okay.
They're saying no. A question in the questions tab here is, we have a liquor license. However, one of our outdoor dining spaces was previously not allowed to have alcohol served there. If we want to serve alcohol there, do we need to fill out an expansion permit, or can we just fill out the ABC application?
I'm going to ask Jen.
Yeah, let me do that one. That's too specific of a question to really answer in a broad sense. I would just say, go ahead and contact us directly at planning@weho.org and let us work through the specifics of that situation with you. If you have a resolution that specifically doesn't allow something, we need to work through what those conditions mean in this context. So go ahead and give us an email at planning@weho.org and we'll help you through that.
Great.
I do want to say just briefly, it seems like there is some concern over the requirements for the detailed site plan, and that if there are businesses that are likely going to struggle with providing that level of detail, please reach out to me directly. I'm happy to connect you with resources, whether they be free resources on our available through the internet, or even city staff can help sort of walk through the details there. So I'm happy to share. I will put my email address in this chat box, and feel free to contact me directly for additional help.
Great. And I see a question on here in regards to, this is, thanks for the link for the temporary expansion application. Where can we find the necessary encroachment application? And that is available at our city's website by going to www.weho.org. And I see, Terry, you unmuted yourself, so.
So the process starts with the temporary outdoor expansion permit. So you need to submit that first. And once you submit that to our planning@weho.org email address, Jen, correct me if I'm wrong, but the planner assigned to your application will help you submit your complete application and then guide you. If you need an encroachment permit, they will be the ones to provide that to you.
Right. Once you contact planning@weho.org, we'll take a look at what you give us and give you any advice or feedback on what you can do to make your application complete. And then once we're able to approve it through planning, which should be fairly simple for straightforward applications, then we'll go ahead and tell you who you need to talk to next, and we'll facilitate that for you.
Yeah, and I kind of want to jump around maybe on a roundtable question for everyone that's on this call. We've gotten quite a few of these temporary outdoor expansion permits from some of our local businesses. Maybe in general terms, what are you all seeing that businesses need to take a special count to look at when submitting their application? We'll probably start with Jen, since I see her on my right here.
So you're asking what's pay the most attention to when they're putting their application together?
Yeah, what have you seen that probably businesses should pay attention to when looking to submit an application?
Just make sure that your site plan is in order. Make sure that you've got your paths of travel marked out, that you have your area of encroachment permit marked out, that you really have gone through each of the requirements that Tara talked about in detail on the site plan and have those done. And like she said, I know that it can be tedious.
I think we just might have lost Jen there, but we'll switch over to Ben. I see you smiling there, looking to answer a question. So Ben, same question to you.
I've been through a few applications as well. From a building and safety, building code standpoint, what I'm seeing on the applications is, like Jen mentioned, making sure that you show your path of travels through these areas you're creating. Keep in mind, you might be using the inside of your restaurant, and occupants need a safe way to exit the building in case of an emergency. So make sure you're keeping that clearance from your doorways so that occupants can safely exit the building. Don't put any tables in front of a door. And also be cognizant of access for people with disabilities. So anytime you create a new space, these areas have to be, there's areas need to be reserved for people with disabilities. So if you're putting a table, that's fine. Just make sure you have the clearances that were on, they're on the application and that Tara had shown on one of her slides. If there's a chair, it can be pulled out. And someone with a wheelchair can pull up to the chair. And that that business owners are aware that they need to provide, if the floors aren't flat enough, that there needs to be some equal facilitation and sensitivity to people with disabilities. So again, make sure you show those clearances and those areas on your site plan so that we can easily review your application.
Great. Robert, do you want to tag on to that as well?
Sure. Yeah, just like Ben mentioned, we want to get everything on a single site plan. And I want to acknowledge the question that Philip posted about the concern that the application process starting off as more of a simple way to assist our business community is looking like it's going to be a big, complex set of drawings. But what we're asking for can be done on a single sheet of paper. One site plan can show your paths of travel, your clearances, the 4-foot minimum access aisles or the path of travel through the space, showing the table locations and the seating layout. You can accomplish all of that on a single plan. You can draw it out to an 8th scale on a 2-foot by 3-foot sheet or 24 by 36. That would be the best way to get it down to a single sheet. And I think
Digital.
Or right. Well, it'll be digitally, obviously, but I'm just trying to think how like some of our business community might be thinking that it's going to take a lot to get this done, or you need to have it drafted by an engineer, and so it could be done on a single sheet. And if there's any questions or you need any assistance, you can email building@weho.org for anything that you might feel is a special circumstance, or if your site might not fit into the kind of the cookie cutter layout that we're proposing in the application process, then please feel free to email us, and we can take a look at your specifics and help you more directly.
Great, thank you. I see another question here from Larry, and it says, if you sell convenience type items like gum that require a health permit, the code allows for 300 square feet. Is that allowed to expand outside, say a beverage cooler? And I'm not sure. I'm looking maybe at Jen here to answer this one.
At this point, it's restaurants only, eating establishments. I understand what your question is, but at this point, and like we've said before, we're working on trying to expand this, but at this point, it's only restaurants. So stay tuned, and we'll keep you posted as things change.
Right. And yeah, and I see a lot of the concerns here about expanding into other business types, and like Jen said, and like Tara said, we're definitely trying to make sure that whatever process we are launching to the business community is effective and fast, and getting revenue right back into your businesses as soon as possible, especially during these trying times. This temporary outdoor expansion for social distancing is something that staff put together really quickly. And we're still trying to try out a lot of the different scenarios as we continue to go through this. As Tara said before, I believe she put her email address within the chat there. It's twarden, WORD as in David, EN as in Nancy, @weho.org. Again, that's twarden@weho.org. You can feel free to email her any of your specific questions. And we have a great slew of staff that are here and ready and willing to help you and your business get up and running. But without that, any final thoughts, Tara?
I do want to, I would like to say thank you so much all for attending. And it's really nice to see that there's interest from establishments other than our restaurant community that would be interested in utilizing this type of permit for their operation. So I certainly will note that and communicate that to our leadership. And, there's potential for this once we really start getting it moving with our restaurant community to expand it to other sectors of our local economy. And I know our friend Manny Rodriguez, the purveyor of protecting the public right-of-way, is on here. And I want to reassure everyone that one of the requirements, in terms of requiring the detailed site plan, that is the effort involved to maintain a safe public right-of-way. So, this is all about balancing our community's interests and concerns, and we have to move forward in a very safe manner for our business community and for our residents. So I appreciate everybody for attending, and would like to thank Ben and Jen and Robert, and of course you, Paulo. We have been working very hard to help our local economy reopen safely and quickly.
Great. Well, with all of that said, thank you very much, everyone, for joining today's program. As always, please feel free to follow us on our coronavirus updates on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and obviously our website at www.weho.org/coronavirus. Until next time, everyone, have a great day. Thank you very much.